How do I ensure that the version of the frameworks, the packages, the libraries, and even the version of Python that I'm using is consistent and specific for each individual project that I'm working on? I do this with virtual environments. Let's explore this in 5 minutes. By default, when I use pip install, it's going to install that particular package globally. So what that means is that if I'm working on different projects where I need different versions, I'm going to wind up running into issues. With a virtual environment, what we're going to have is effectively a folder with everything that I need inside of it for that particular project. I can create a virtual environment by using either Python 3, which will then be the version of Python that I've associated with that, or I can pin it to a specific version. Like in my case here, if I want this to be Python 3.8, then I specify Python 3.8. Then my tick M for a module, and then I'm going to run venv. Venv, of course, being for virtual environment. The next parameter that I provide is the name of the folder that I want for this virtual environment. You'll see people use env for environment or venv or a .env or a .venv. I personally like to use .venv. I really kind of like that up at the very top, kind of tucks it away. That's just the way that I like to run it. So now that I've got that set up, I'm going to go ahead and create that virtual environment. With that virtual environment created, the next thing I need to do is to activate it. Now, the steps here are going to change slightly depending on the operating system that you're using. In my case, I'm going to be using Linux. The steps are the same for Mac OS, by the way, as well. And that's going to be to specify source, so my folder that I'm currently working on, and then .venv, mv, there we go, bin, and then activate, just like that. And now you're going to notice that my little command line here will be updated to show me that I'm now working inside of that virtual environment. So when I install my packages, which are listed inside of my requirements text file, that will install into that .venv file. And in fact, we can even see that. Let me just zoom in over here. So if I open up .venv, open up bin, now I can actually see my pip 3.8, my Python 3.8, and even inside of here, I can now see my Flask. And any other libraries that I would have installed would then be inside of that folder. One big thing to note is you don't want to include that venv folder typically inside of your project. So if I was using Git for my source control, I would want to make sure that I created a git ignore file and then specify, in my case, .venv, since that's the name of my virtual environment. So with a virtual environment, what I'm going to have is that little folder tucked away. Everything that I need to run this project will then be inside of there, and that helps ensure that I'm always running the correct version for this project.